Like, I'm shocked. I'm absolutely stunned. Yesterday, we found out that Sony is closing BluePoint Studios. For those of you who don't know, BluePoint Studios was largely a remake and remaster studio that was purchased back in 2021 by PlayStation. Back then, we assumed, okay, so they did Shadow of the Colossus remake, Demon Souls remake. What's next? What are they gonna do? Come to find out, last year they had been working for the past like 5 years on a God of War live service game. And not only that, PlayStation then cancels it a year later, shuts the studio down. So I'm here. What are we doing? I feel like I'm at a loss for words. The Shadow of the Colossus remake is one of my top 10 favorite games of all time. I played it years and years ago, and I've been meaning to do another replay of it. It's one of those that, yes, it is basically the original game with better assets and, a few other tweaks here and there. I know there are some people who, art direction or whatever, have a few qualms with that, but from the most part, from what I've been able to tell, it is a pretty well faithful recreation and in some cases update to the original game. I adore this game. Demon Souls remake, I'm more conflicted on. I do think they kind of dropped the ball when it comes to art direction. My biggest gripe with the Demon Souls remake is more so the feel of that game. I don't think that game feels like a FromSoft game. And my honest opinion on it is it feels like someone made a Souls game in Unreal Engine, even though it's not in Unreal, but I just don't like how floaty the movement in that game feels. It feels overly animated. It doesn't feel like if FromSoft were to have taken Demon Souls and done their own remake or remaster of it, it does not feel like that. It feels like they took that original game and tried to modernize it closer to, say, a God of War or something along those lines. So that's my kind of like, I'm not the biggest fan of the Demon Souls remake. I haven't even finished it. I've played, probably about 10 hours of it, but I've still yet to finish it, largely for those reasons, mostly gameplay. I just don't enjoy it as much as even like the original Dark Souls or something like that. Like, I just enjoy those actual FromSoft versions better. But that being said, I mean, look, I would have never played through the Nathan Drake collection were it not for the BluePoint remasters. They've done so many remasters over the ages, and the idea that Sony buys this company that is known for remakes and remasters, and instead of putting them on, say, another one of their old IPs to bring forward to the PS5, whether it was a remaster or a full remake, instead they say God of War live service game, and have them on that for 4 or 5 years, pull the plug on it after you told them to do it, and then shut the studio down when you could have easily put them on. Everyone's always asking for that Bloodborne remake, remaster. I would have absolutely hated to see them do a Bloodborne remake. I'm going to be completely honest, but a remaster, taking that original game and just making it run better, higher frame rate, 4K, maybe upscaling textures, that would have been perfect. Just that alone. Have them do that for like a year or so and then put that out and get them back on track. Would have been absolutely perfect. I don't know. I don't understand. But instead, we're getting these Horizon, the Horizon live service game that's coming out that no one's going to play. I'm not going to play it. And I know it's going to be like $40 when it comes out. We've had Concord, massive bomb. We have this Fair Games game that's allegedly going to come out at some point. Yet another live service game. But our single player remaster remake studio that we have so many games that we could bring forward to the modern consoles, games that are stuck for all of eternity on the PS3 unless you can emulate them on PC. They're just going to be stuck there. We're not going to do anything with them. And it's just frustrating to see after last week, and we had so many great announcements from PlayStation at their State of Play, from having Konami there announcing Metal Gear 4 is finally coming out of the vault, which I guess is more of a Konami thing than PlayStation, but also, God of War coming back in a lot of different ways. and several other titles that they're bringing forward and should be coming out soon or within the next couple years. We were on a high, and then to immediately this week be like, nah. Well, you know, Sony continues to go through this phase of like, it's back when they did the whole Concorde Astrobot thing. It was like Concorde, the lowest low, Astrobot, one of the greatest like mascot platformers to ever be made. How? And look, I know my channel is mostly Souls related content, and this is Souls related in that BluePoint has done a Souls game. They did the remake of Demon Souls, and they will, you know, for better or worse, never touch Bloodborne. Whether it's a remake, which would have been for the worse, or a remaster, which would have been for the best, regardless, it's never going to happen, at least from that studio. I'm not one of those who's completely given up on the Bloodborne remaster cope. I think something will eventually happen with that IP, even if it's in another 10 years. But I think just like Metal Gear 4 coming back from the ashes of 18 years locked on the PS3, something will happen with that game. So that's not really what I'm mostly focusing on in this video. It's more the incompetence of the entire PS5 generation. We're reaching more of the tail end of this generation, or maybe the midpoint, depending on when they release the PS6. And it's like, what have we really had of substance that wasn't a sequel or a remake or a live service game? And I am sitting here scratching my head saying, what PS5 exclusive games have I purchased this whole gen that are wholly original? And I'm actually struggling. Ghost of Yotei, sequel. Spider-Man 2, sequel. God of War Ragnarok, sequel. All three of those very good games in terms of gameplay, and in some ways improve upon their originals. I think all three of them, in my opinion, even God of War Ragnarok, I think are step downs narratively from their PS4 counterparts. Instead, more live service. Let's go. I'm so excited to see these games come out and have the plug pulled on them 2 weeks later, just like Concorde. It's so exciting. It fills me with so much joy and happiness. Look, I love my PS5. It's the console I play the majority of my games on. I think it's a good console. The problem is when it comes to first-party output from Sony and PlayStation, it has been pretty rough this gen. It's been, you know, like we've had Helldivers, their one like really successful live service game, which is a really good game. I really do enjoy Helldivers. Another sequel, by the way. But other than that, they have not seen a hit. They have not seen success with any of their live service games like that, other than I guess maybe some of the sports games. So I hate to see this happen to a studio that has put out genuinely incredible performing games, very well made games, despite my qualms with Demon Souls and not wanting them to do a remake of Bloodborne. Regardless, they are a very talented studio and have brought some of these games that would be inaccessible otherwise to modern audiences. Again, I would have never played through the the Uncharted games were it not for the Nathan Drake collection that they oversaw, that they produced, and bringing those games from the PS2 and the PS3 to the PS4, which is playable on the PS5. And it really is unfortunate, and I hate it for everyone at the studio. I hope they're all able to find places at other studios that either are comparable or pay even better, quite honestly, because they all deserve it. And it really is a shame to see one of the better studios from PlayStation just in a day gone. I mean, who's next? You know, Japan Studios, we lost them. BluePoint, we've lost them. Like, what is the next step here? What a horrendous generation this has been for PlayStation. Literally, their only saving grace is that Nintendo is not a direct competitor to them, and Xbox has somehow fumbled far worse than they have. But, you know, for every dub we get from PlayStation, it feels like a week later we get a ginormous L. And yeah, I feel like I'm kind of at a loss for words. This is such a shock that this happened out of nowhere, it seems like. I'm sure there were, internal reasonings, coping as to why this needed to happen. But, we still got to have this Horizon Zero Dawn live service game because, yes, Horizon is our big franchise that we need to plaster over everything PlayStation related because everyone loves Horizon. Right, guys? Right? Aren't you so excited? I'm like Gehrman in Bloodborne. The nightmare never ends, and we're all trapped here together. And the only potential saving grace is what does the turnover look like for the PS6 generation? We need a house cleaning. We need a top-down house cleaning of management of PlayStation, because instead of having these groundbreaking single player games that the PS4, PS3, PS2 were known for, instead we're getting sequels, remakes, and live service slop. I love Shadow of the Colossus, their remake, absolutely stunning. Demon's Souls remake, again, despite some artistic direction, choices, is still a gorgeous looking game and is a good game in its own right. And so many of their other ports and remasters, I'm eternally grateful for. Rest in peace, BluePoint Studios. You will not be forgotten.